Safety also hard to find in the war-ravaged Tigray region of northern Ethiopia, not to mention facts and food. First, let me tell you that the Ethiopian Air Force is now admitting it carried out what they call successful airstrikes on Tigray's capital. That is according to state-run media. It is a big U-turn after the government originally denied Monday's air raids on Mekelle had even happened. The UN says 3 children died in the attack. Well, the last time airstrikes were launched there was last November when the conflict between the Tigrayan People's Liberation Front and the Ethiopian government first erupted. The government is trying to regain territory captured by Tigrayan fighters. As the conflict's first anniversary approaches, the UN is wringing its hands, but this is about more than politics. It's about life and death for hundreds of thousands of people in the region. The UN says they are facing famine-like conditions, even as it tries to get more food aid in there. CNN's Larry Maduro is in neighbouring Kenya. He joins us from the capital, Nairobi, and you've been talking to your sources on the ground. Larry, we are just approaching the year's anniversary. This was an offensive described by the Ethiopian Prime Minister as likely to take, back in November last year, something like 3 weeks. Just explain what is going on now, what we understand to be the situation on the ground, and why it is that this continues to put so many lives at risk.
Becky, the Ethiopian Prime Minister at the time described this as a law enforcement operation to stamp out what they consider the terrorist organization, the Tigray People's Liberation Front. In November, on November 4th, it will be the first anniversary of this conflict, which has now spilled over not just in the Tigray region in the north of the country, but in the neighboring Amhara and Afar regions. And there's concern in the international community about this potentially extending even further. But what we know from this airstrike carried out on Monday, 2 airstrikes, eyewitnesses tell us that they hit civilian casualties, that there were people who were injured here. And the Ethiopian government initially denied ever having carried out an airstrike at all. It's only until later Monday evening that the Ethiopian press agency put out this statement saying it was a successful offensive against the communication equipment of the Tigray People's Liberation Front. And we only now know from the UN Office of Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs that 3 children were among those killed in this operation. So officially, Becky, we're in this cycle where the Ethiopian government carries out an operation and then they deny it until the evidence is overwhelming, and then they half-heartedly own it. And yesterday we heard from the US State Department expressing concern, and also from the UN Secretary General spokesperson. Listen.
Once again, remind all parties to the conflict of their obligations under international humanitarian law to protect civilians and civilian infrastructure. This includes hundreds of humanitarian workers on the ground of working tirelessly to provide assistance to millions of civilians caught up in the fighting.
And as Becky, you were mentioning, this was supposed to be only 3 weeks. It's coming up to a year. And the Ethiopian government in Addis Ababa insists that they're here to free the people from a terrorist organization, this TPLF, that's in control of the northern part of the country. And the TPLF at the same time also see this as a revolutionary act against an invading force, the Ethiopian army and their supporters from the Eritrean military and some from the neighboring groups. So it looks like we will be coming up to that first anniversary and probably even longer.